KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So let's leave the garbage behind. Let's move on to what's really important here. I have a special announcement to make. And then we're going to talk about it. It's a very special announcement. I'm very happy to tell you about this. A group of concerned citizens from Harney County, Oregon. Harney County, Oregon. What is the matter with my brain today? Harney County, Oregon, have invited me. Can you believe that? Me. To come and teach in Burns, Oregon. You know where the Oregon standoff is? See, that's the good thing about crises. Thomas Paine wrote that in a series of essays called The Crisis. He wrote them in different places at different times. And he said that crises are a good thing because they make people aware and they make people awake. And whether you agree with what's going on in Oregon or not, you cannot deny the fact that it's making people ask questions that they've never asked before. It's making people look at things in a way that they've never looked at them before. And it's waking people up. Making them want to understand. Wait a minute. How is this supposed to work? What exactly is the federal government supposed to be doing? What is it not supposed to be doing? How is it that we've come to the point where we own nothing? I mean, I want you to think about this. What exactly do you own in America? Because ownership implies that you have the authority, the power, and the right to exercise dominion over that thing exclusive of everybody else. You don't own something unless you have exclusive authority over it. If you don't have exclusive authority over it, you have to ask permission. Then you don't own it. You're just borrowing it or using it by permission. It's making people ask questions, really, really, really important questions. And that's exciting. It's exciting, this revival of a desire for knowledge and wisdom. And I'm just... Man, I tell you what, I'm just honored beyond measure that I get to be a part of it. It's just awesome. It's just stinking awesome. And I'm flying out to Burns, Oregon to teach the people in Oregon about their rights. So I'm going to be in Burns, Oregon on January 18th and 19th. And I want you to help me spread this information. Because, you know, haters are going to hate. Right? Haters are going to hate. And you saw from the Oregon video, if you go read any of the comments, haters are going to hate. Right? People just, they don't get it. They just don't get it. I don't think they want to get it. I think there's a certain number of people who were just happy in their servitude. For whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe free stuff is just too attractive, or maybe having somebody take care of you all the time is just too great of a privilege. Because think about it. If somebody is taking care of you all the time, what is your personal responsibility? If anything goes wrong, you just blame it on somebody else. I mean, it is sort of liberating, I suppose, to never have to be accountable for your own actions, to blame everything on everybody else. But we get to go to Burns, Oregon. 2 days, January 18th and 19th. I'm just happy that my schedule happened that way. I was supposed to be teaching somewhere else at this time, and I think God just knew. God just knew we had to be there. And it's just by divine providence. Is that arrogant for me to say that? I don't mean to say that in arrogance. I say that in boldness. It's not about me. It's about the truth of liberty. And I want you to help me spread this notice far and wide. Because I want all the western states to know where to go. And I'm hoping we got more than just Burns, Oregon. I'm hoping that we pack out that place standing room only for 2 days, teaching the sovereignty of the states and the constitutional limits of federal government's control over the states and the lands. At the Harney County Fairgrounds Memorial Building, January 18th and 19th. You can find the information on Facebook. Let's be there.
Let them steal your light. Don't let them break your stride. There is light on the other side. You'll see all the raindrops falling. It's a revolution.
The KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
So why would I go to Harney County, Oregon? Why would I go to Burns, Oregon? Why would I even invest in the expense to go out there? I mean, I could go home instead. Why would I do that? Because this is what's important. Not Donald Trump. Not Barack Obama, not Ted Cruz, not Hillary Clinton, not Bernie Sanders. This is what's important. People. People wanting to embrace the sovereignty of the states. Wanting to understand the constitutional limits of federal government's control over the states and the land. Wanting to take back power and understanding what's so very important about property ownership. People waking up, people wanting to free themselves. Because you see, when government dictates to you how you operate your property, the only thing missing in servitude are the physical chains. It's awesome because James Madison wrote an essay on property where he tells us exactly what property is. He says, property in its particular application means that dominion which one man claims and exercises over the external things of the world in exclusion of every other individual. You do not own property if you don't have an exclusive right and dominion over it. Samuel Adams wrote in 1792 that the colonists held the natural rights of life, liberty, and property, and the right to protect and defend all three. But Madison continues and says, look, in its larger and juster meaning, property embraces everything to mean which a man may attach a value and have a right to. A man's land, merchandise, money, his opinions and the free communication of them, his religious opinions and the profession and practice dictated by them, the safety and liberty of his person, the free use of his faculties, the free choice of the objects on which to employ them. That's what property is. It's not just where you mow your grass and you know, your dog uses and you drive your car. Property is everything. And do you own your property? To actually own your property, you have to exercise exclusive dominion over that thing. You must have complete control over it without seeking anyone's permission or favor. So what bank owns your property? What credit agency owns your property? Because those are the people who have dominion over your property, not you. Can you sell your property if you have a mortgage on it without telling the mortgage people, the bank that you're doing it? Can you sell it for something less than it's worth without feeling the wrath of the creditors? If you pay everything off, do you own your property? Do you own your home? Does paying off your mortgage mean you own your property? What if you fail to pay your property taxes for 3 years? Then who owns your home? Do you own your property on which your home sits? Can you build on your property however you choose without seeking government permission, without submitting to government regulations, without paying a government fee? Can you exercise dominion over your property without the government's permission? Do you own your property? Do you own the produce of your labor? Can you make a product of your own invention and sell it without government permission or fees? Can you earn a wage from your labor or skill without government permission and fees? Do you own the produce of your labor? Are you catching the pattern here? Madison says where an excess of power prevails, property of no sort is duly respected. No man is safe in his opinions, his person, his faculties, or his possessions. Well, of course you're not. Because when the government has so much power that it can take your property, then you will do everything to keep your property and make sure the government stays happy. Because you see, the right to secure property, the ability to secure property is essential to maintaining your life and your liberty. If you cannot secure your property, then you can't have life. If you have to ask permission to secure your property, then guess what? You can't protect your life. And you have no liberty. And if the government can come and take your property at its whim, then you will shut up. You will not use your property unless it makes the government happy. You will not speak your mind or your opinions unless it makes the government happy, because you don't want to tick the government off and lose everything. It's not a just government, nor is property secure under it, where the arbitrary restrictions, exemptions, and monopolies deny to part of its citizens that free use of their faculties and free choice of their occupations. If you have to pay a fee to the government to do a job, to work, under your labors, under your skill, what if you can't afford that fee? Then you no longer have a free choice in your occupations, do you? See, can the government seize your property for failing to pay their fees? Can the government control your property through regulation, which is in fact legislation without representation? Can you buy or sell property without first seeking permission from the government or paying homage to their demands? When the government dictates how you manage your property, the only thing missing in servitude are the physical chains. That's why what we're doing in Oregon is important. Teaching the actual physical limitations of the federal government. You see, if the federal government can dictate to a state how it is to operate and maintain their property, then that state is in a state of servitude. These states exist in servitude because they do not have the freedom to use their property as the people see fit. Slaves. Do you know what you call a state that is in servitude to a federal government? It's called a colony. And that federal government is called a kingdom. So here's the thing that we need to become aware of. Because Samuel Adams said, no people will tamely surrender their liberties, nor when knowledge is diffused and virtue is preserved. But to the contrary, when a people become universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink underneath the weight of their own ignorance without the aid of foreign invaders. America is sinking because we no longer exercise dominion over our property. We live under an illusion of freedom and prosperity. Because when you think about it, the only prosperity you have, it just occurred to me, do you know the only prosperity you have is the prosperity that the government allows you to have? think about that. Your prosperity comes at the permission of government. Because if your prosperity didn't come at the permission of government, you would be free to operate the way you choose. You would be able to benefit from the sweat of your brow. And the measure of your your prosperity would be measured against the value of your product and the work that you put forward. I don't believe that our prosperity is based on hard work anymore. I believe our prosperity is based on how we play the system and how much homage we can pay to the government to receive our prosperity. I mean, I just think about that. How can that be wrong? How do you have a business without paying 47 different agencies, 47 different regulations, and filling out 37,000 different forms, and then paying all these fees and paying all these taxes? How do you have anything? Maybe they were right when they said you didn't build this. Maybe there's some truth in that. You think? And maybe we need to realize what that means to be free. And how we get it back. See, I'm not just going to show you all the bad stuff, right? I think pretty much everybody's aware of the bad stuff. Everybody knows what's bad. You feel what's bad. You can see it. Maybe you can't put your finger exactly on it. But you see it. You feel it. You know it, even on a certain level. So the question becomes, what do you do about it? And that's what we're going to be talking about in Oregon. January 18th and 19th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Harney County Fairgrounds Memorial Building in Burns, Oregon. Can you be there? I mean, I'm hoping that we will get people from all over the country. I'm hoping that we will get people from all over the western states so that we can bring truth, so that we can ignite some real brush fires and show some people just how powerful people infused with liberty can be. Taking back our power. Taking back the knowledge of our rights. Wow. Can you just imagine the revival coming from something like that?
My right to tote the weapon of my choice. Don't censor my voice. Hate me if you want, or love me if you can. If the truth is what you want, then you found your man. I ain't backing down, I ain't backing up. If you think like I think, then crack it on up.
I won't back up, I don't back down. I've been raised up to stand my ground. Take my job, but not my guns. Tax my check till I ain't got none. Except for the good Lord up above. I answer to no one.
The KrisAnne Hall Show. She's Liberty's lobbyist.
You know, I did a really fun interview with Joe Miller in Alaska the other day. It was really awesome. Great interview. Joe is a great guy. And I'm going to be speaking at the 10th Amendment dinner in Topeka, Kansas this Thursday, which was like the day after tomorrow, I think. No, tomorrow, actually. So I will be speaking at the 10th Amendment dinner in Topeka, Kansas on Thursday. And Joe is coming from Alaska to be there. I mean, that's really cool. Joe is a really great guy. He's dedicated to these issues. And I think it's a mark of his character that he would come all the way to Kansas. Now, it's not to see me. He has friends here in Kansas. I believe that he's really good friends with Secretary of State Chris Kobach, who, by the way, spells his name the same way I did. So he can't be that all bad, right? Just teasing. Anyway, a really great interview with Joe Miller. If you get a chance to go on his archives and see it, I'm hoping that he gets he told me he has some technical difficulties posting it. So I'm really hoping that we can have that interview for later listening. But he said something to me that just sort of sparked some thinking in my mind. And he said, look, KrisAnne, some people saw your video and they thought your statements were really sort of radical, that you were calling for violence. And of course I wasn't. Go look at the Oregon video. I didn't call for violence. That's not who I am. Radical, though. Just sort of wrap your brain around that. My speech about federal government being limited in its power is viewed as radical. Isn't that interesting? And then he asked me, well, what do you think about the guys protesting and having guns? Isn't that rather extreme? So my speech about Oregon is radical, and men carrying guns are extreme. How far have we come? Extreme. How is it that a fundamental right is now classified as being extreme? Our framers expected us to carry arms all the time. Richard Henry Lee, one of our founders, said, whereas to preserve liberty, it's essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Always possess arms. If something is essential, can you do without it? If you're always doing something, is there ever a time when you're not doing it? Do you know what would be radical to Richard Henry Lee? Do you know what would be radical to George Mason and James Madison and Thomas Jefferson? Do you know what would be radical to them? The idea that the government could tell you when and where you could carry your guns. The idea that the government, that you would have to seek permission from the government to exercise your essential rights. When did the exercise of your rights become radical and extreme? I mean, these are the rights that people have possessed for centuries. The way that we've behaved for centuries. The things that we've expected to be a matter of natural law and right for centuries. How did that become radical? I read an article of somebody criticizing the way that I teach. KrisAnne Hall has that radical, right-wing, extremist interpretation of the Constitution. I have the same interpretation of the Constitution that has been in existence for over 700 years. Now, I know when the Constitution was ratified, but it's based on documents over 700 years old. And I don't interpret it any different than our framers did and any different than their forefathers did. Why is 50 years of ignorance become mainstream and solid fact and history become extreme? Only in an Orwellian society. God bless. See you tomorrow.